We live in a society where so much of what we are fed information-wise is there to generate a profit or to get us to click the video or to watch the thing. And it's like we have so many inputs to us of other people's information that, you know, for me, for so many years of my life, I think as a result, anxious, felt depressed, felt lonely, felt like I wasn't important. I had an eating disorder pretty much my whole life. Dropped out of college because I was so anxious. I mean, it was just, I was in a very dark space. And once I started to recognize that there is a power and a real, like, I think, secret to being selective with the information that I allow into my sphere, that my life started to completely change. If we think about our thoughts as frequencies, which what they're finding in consciousness research today with physicists is that thoughts are frequencies, and that consciousness is potentially fundamental, meaning that consciousness is the makeup of everything, right? So we live in a world where it's very material feeling to us. What they're finding is that all of this, everything, me, you, this camera that I'm talking on, like all these people down here that are over here, like everybody, everything is consciousness. And everything is made up of waves and particles. And it's all kind of like light. None of it is actually physically here. It's like crazy to think about. But consciousness is what they're finding is fundamental. It is the baseline of reality. And one of the ways that humans experience consciousness is through our thoughts. And some of the ways that our thoughts are then affected is through the things that we notice. So for me, I was spending so much of my life essentially absorbing all of the information, all of the content that was just coming to me based on people trying to sell me things, people trying to give me information about, you know, you just look at your social media right now, like when you get a second, look at your YouTube feed, look at your Instagram feed, and it's going to be so many things about like, oh, if you don't eat this way, you're going to die, or if you don't do this, you're going to fail, or you need, like for me when I was growing up, it was like you need to get out of college and have a job immediately, or you're just going to fail. Like so many fearful thoughts were coming into my mind my whole life, that if we're talking about thoughts as frequencies, I had a frequency of thought, like a habit of thought, that was extremely anxious and extremely worried and like sad. And that was kind of like my baseline. Once I started to notice the things, the feelings that were attached to these thoughts, and I started to actually pay attention to the emotions that were attached to the things that I was noticing, is when my life completely shifted. It's like we live in this world where, you know, and the news is like a really good example of a source of information that comes to all of us that isn't, it's doing nothing but talking about all the bad things in the world. Like, when do you ever see the news? Like, they don't really take the time to talk about all the great things happening in the day. They talk about all the problems. If we're taking this to consciousness level, like thoughts, our experience of consciousness is through our thoughts. So whatever is put out there in the ether is expanding that thought form, and then the consciousness attached to that, it just grows. So for me, learning to basically start ignoring or getting rid of information that was fear-mongering or anxiety-provoking or anything that would make me feel like left out or any of that kind of stuff has been a game changer. I don't think I get on social media hardly at all anymore. Like, I rarely check my Instagram. I actually get hate from it from my friends, but the reason I don't is because I had this habit of like, I would check it, and if I saw that somebody was doing something without me, or there was like an event without me, or, you know, some kind of thing that I wanted to go to that I wasn't included on or I didn't know about, I could have been in the best mood ever. And then I check that Instagram story and I see it. And now suddenly I feel like shit. I feel sad. I feel like left out, and all these different feelings come from that, of just being like, oh no, like I'm not loved. All these stories come in my mind. Oh, I'm not important. And while I know that's not true, like I've done enough, so I guess self-development, you could say, to like not actually really believe that anymore. It's just an example of, once you open up the door to allowing in so much input that would come my way, it allows other frequencies to affect mine. And I think this is a thing that's gone wrong so much in society today, why people are so anxious, so sad, is that humans, we have our own antennas. We're like all just like antennas. We're electronic beings. We are magnetic. We are attractors, essentially. And so many people talk about meditation as like the cure for so many things, and I think it's because you get to solidify and harness your own frequency in meditation. You get to feel what it feels like to be you. You get to feel what it feels like to not have all the input. It's like so much static input all the time about things that don't even belong to us. This food is going to kill you. This thing is a problem. If you don't make X amount of dollars at this point, you're a loser. You need to have 75 sources of income. Go to the doctor 6 times a year, because if you don't, you might get cancer. Like, so much constant information all the time that is about sad or negative shit. Deciding to stop with the input and just minimize the channels of income, maximizing channels of income, minimizing the channels of input, and actually choosing the things that I wanted to think about by noticing how those things made me feel, shifted everything. But it wasn't until I started to actually become like a literal savage with what I allow in my sphere of thoughts, right? So I interviewed, this is kind of cool. I interviewed Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell. She is the chief scientist of that podcast called the Telepathy Tapes, where they are literally studying potential telepathy in nonverbal autistic kids. So like, whether it's real or not, real scientists, she's from Harvard, are studying this on an actual scientific level to see what's going on. And anyways, she goes into consciousness and how consciousness might have a part in this. And we're learning so much about what we don't know about consciousness. And she talked about in this interview that we have a sphere, the earth has almost like an apple-shaped energetic field around it. And so do humans, and so do all living animals. There's a force around it that is magnetic. And it has the ability to affect change. This is what she was talking about, telling me about with this whole, what they're learning. And so essentially we started talking about like how thoughts could affect change in our realities. And what they're finding is that's very, very, very likely. So you can listen to that whole conversation. I'll attach it below. It's so fascinating because she talks about telepathy and all that kind of stuff. But I also talked to Thomas Campbell, who talks about this. He's a leading physicist as well, and researching consciousness and finding very similar things. It's kind of like what I've been doing is like crossing all of these physicists from a scientific standpoint to see if they agree on things or if there's, consistencies there. And what everybody seems to be talking about is that we're like electronic. We are like antennas. And so I think in society we're conditioned to just bring in so much information. It's like normal to have an Instagram account, a YouTube account, 16 different emails, Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook. I don't even know all the other ones, but there's Telegram, WhatsApp. I mean, all of those are just representations of different input that come in and disrupt our own electromagnetic field. So what I learned that has totally changed my life, and I think is the thing, it's almost like a hack, is to minimize the input. Because if Dr. Diane Hennessy is correct, that sphere of consciousness around us, that aura, that electromagnetic kind of sphere, if that is there, then more input creates more static. And then it's like hard to hear oneself. Both of them talk about, both of those physicists and scientists, they talk about, how meditation is so valuable. And because it allows us to go into our own sphere, our own bubble, and truly like harness our own frequency, our own energy. But I had a very hard time doing that when I had so many other inputs coming in to disrupt it. And again, we live in this society where it would be one thing if the information was like super uplifting all the time and really positive and like talked about the opportunities and talked about the best things in life and all that. And some of it does for sure. And that's cool. But the majority of the information out there is negative stuff. It's about things going wrong and all that. And it's, I create content too. It's because that stuff actually gets clicks. That's what people notice. I think it's a survival thing where we want to know what the problems are so we can then like survive. We just like fix them and survive. But I think noticing the problems actually brings about more problems. It's that consciousness thing, like attracts like, you get what you are, frequencies, like constantly thinking about problems only brings more problems is what I learned. And so being like insane about blocking out the things that I don't want. Like I don't check my social media hardly ever. I get so much hate for it, but whatever. I'm honestly not that fast to get back over text. I'm not trying too hard to like, really the main thing that I look at is YouTube and my work, like this channel's Instagram, to respond to you or whoever wants to chat with me. Outside of that, I'm pretty not involved. And it has changed everything because now I can feel what my own energy feels like, my frequency feels like. And before that, being anxious and sad and all this, like having so much input creates that static, that noise. But in our society, it's considered normal to have all that. And I think that that's the reason why, in part, I was so anxious. It's too much input. It's the art of like less is more. Or as one of my best friends says, the subtraction for addition. Now my focus, my attention focuses on the things that I want to think about, the things that I want to notice. And as a result, I keep getting more of those. It's like the frequency thing, like what you practice thinking about, you get more of. And just being like ruthless, I think, with minimizing the stuff that doesn't feel good to think about. It's not like I'm an idiot where I just don't know any of the news. Obviously, I know what's going on in the world, but the thing is, like, if it's big enough, I'm gonna find out about it. You know what I mean? Like eventually in our culture, like it's just things become big enough that for me, I don't even have to seek it out. I don't have to have my notifications on to know about a big thing in news. Like I'll find out, it's like even just last week, or not last week, within the last, whatever it was, month, Taylor Swift like gets engaged, which I don't care. But like, of course everybody tells me about it. Like the whole world tells me about it. I don't look on social media for it. I'm just informed of it. Or, things that are going on internationally with wars or politically, like those things eventually, the important things, I find out about them because enough of society is talking about them. And that's kind of my filtration process. And it works. Because then I get to be selective about all the things that I want to have come in, and that protects that thing, that consciousness aura around me that allows me to think and feel good. And then because I think and feel good and I notice good things and I notice more of it, like I have such an amazing life. And yeah, I think choosing to have less actually gets more. It all goes back to this consciousness stuff and frequencies, and thoughts are things and thoughts create reality. And once I started to actually be selective about my thoughts and block out all those things that I didn't want to notice or think about, or at least minimize it, is when my life shifted. But that is just not a common thing in our society, because most people, our culture is to have all of this input all the time, and it's just static coming into our own electromagnetic or whatever frequency that disrupts it. So anyways, I think that life is actually really beautiful. I didn't used to think that. I mean, if you look around, it's like, how insane is this? Honestly, I literally look like it's like a fantasy looking world right there. Let me see if I can tap the thing. It's focusing on my face. No! It's like insane. That doesn't even look real. Like, that is so beautiful. Before when I was taking in so much information, I would just wake up and think about my problems. I would think about, oh God, that social media post that I saw said this thing, or God, I need to do this, or oh my God, I need to do that. And while it's, I think, good to have motivation and drive, which I have a lot of, I mean, there's so much good around that I used to not notice at all. Like there's these beautiful birds over here. There's these bird sounds, like all of these beautiful trees. Like, it's just beautiful. Like the sunlight, it's like sunrise at the start of the day. These buildings, it's gorgeous. You know, I'm just like talking on this beautiful mound or whatever. I had a good coffee this morning. Like, there's so many other good things that I can focus on that elevate my frequency, that remind me of all the wonderful things in life. And once I started noticing them, I started to more easily notice them. And like my days, I'll just walk around and I'll just look at things. I'm like, wow, that's a really cool bird. Or like, wow, that's like a really pretty tree. Just like things that I would never think about before. I would never, because I didn't have access to those thoughts, because I was consumed with all the other negative thoughts via all the information that is negative that comes in. So yeah, it's like learning to shift my attention to guard what I choose to allow in. Like, we're like a YouTube algorithm. What we notice, what we think about, what we pay attention to, we essentially subscribe to and we get more of. So it's just like unsubscribe, unsubscribe, unsubscribe. You're canceled. I'm not gonna do that. And subscribing to, talking about, noticing, seeing, writing about all the amazing things in my life that are going well makes all of that come about. And it's just frequencies, consciousness, learning to respect what they're learning about quantum physics and all that. So let me know your thoughts about this. I'd be very curious to hear if you've had a similar experience or if you can relate. I am going to go on a walk now and enjoy the morning. It is literally perfect out. And yeah, I hope this helped. We subscribe to what we notice, and what we notice, we get more of. So choosing to notice, for me, all of the amazing things in this life, how beautiful everything is. As cheesy as that may sound, but it's just sick. So I hope you have a great day. See you on the next one.